Hello and welcome to the channel where we talk about all things Weichwatz and chill with friends. My name is Liam and today I want to talk about my competitive 8-2 Soul BanG Dream profile. Now, if you are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button, and if you enjoy what we do here, please let me know by hitting that like button. As well as that, check me out on Discord, on Twitch, and on Twitter. Links are all down below. Let's jump straight in. Now, if you've been part of the channel for a while, you will know that about a year ago, I made a deck profile video on a budget 8-2 Soul BanG Dream build, and what I've done is actually taken that build and gone, you know what, I want to use the 8-2 Soul, let's make it a bit more competitive, a bit stronger, a bit more consistent, and that's what I've made today. So if you enjoy 2 Soul and, you know, 2 Soul go BRRR, let me know in the chat below. And yeah, let's jump straight into the deck profile. I'm really excited to share this with you. Let's go. So starting up with our level 0 game, we run 4 copies of Who We Are Now Adasa Ichigaya. This card gains the bonsai trait in hand, which, okay, but the important thing is that if you have 5 or more cards in hand, this card gains 2,000 power, making it 3,000. And the following ability, continuous, the character facing this card cannot side attack, and at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase as an auto effect, you may move this card to an open slot in front of a character that your opponent controls. So it's a 3,000 power chaser, with also the fact that the opponent cannot side against it, so if they cannot get over that 3,000 power, they have to front, they have to sacrifice a lane, and you get to keep a body on board. This card is a very, very good runner. In my opinion, the best runner in the set. There is the Lisa mill runner, which is okay, it gets the 3,500, yeah, it's a mill runner, so it's, you know, I kind of get that, but I genuinely believe that this card is better, especially when you run other cards to make this 3-5, potentially even 4,000 power on defense. This card is a very strong runner, and is a 4 in this deck. We also run 3 copies of Finding the Answer Mocha Alba. This card is, when this card is put from stage to waiting room, you may put the top card of your deck into your clock, and if you do, search your deck for a level 1 or higher music character. And the second effect, the alarm effect, is if this card is the top card of your clock, at the beginning of your climax phase, you may choose one of your other characters and give it the following ability. When this card's battle opponent comes reversed, you may put the top card of your opponent's clock into your opponent's waiting room and put the character facing this to their clock. A clock bombs, as we call it. This card is really, really neat. It's a Ricky, it gets you through your deck, it gets you the level 1 combo that you need, which I'll go through later. And as well as that, you know, the alarm effect is really good. It's really good board removal. You know, board removal is what we're all about in this day and age. So if you can get over things, stuff like Alice, stuff like, you know, Nino, if you can get over it and then fully remove it from the board so they cannot encore it, this card does wonders for that. So this is a fantastic card. 3 of is fine. I don't think you need 2, but you do also run 2 copies of this card, which is the To Where I Dream Of Sayo Hikawa. This is another Ricky. When this card goes from stage to waiting room, you may pay 1, put a character from your waiting room to the bottom of your clock, and if you do, go to your waiting room and grab it's an anniversary, a Roselia, or a 1-0 Roselia event from the anniversary set, which we don't run in this build. But basically, it lets you get, if you've got your search Ricky, you've also got a salvage Ricky, as well as a color fix for your clock. You know, these 2 in combination is really good. We also run 2 copies of Late Night Talk, Misaki Okusawa. This card is a global 500, so continuous. All of your other anniversary or Hello Happy World characters get 500 power, and you've got 2 act abilities, both on rest. So on rest, you may choose a copy of the 2-1 Misaki that we're going to show later, and then put it under this card as a marker, and then basically the next turn you may rest this card, bring the 2-1 under as a marker in front of this card until the end of turn, and we'll talk about that little combination later. This is a really, really good little thing that you run in pretty much all BanG Dream decks now. Like, just to be able to get the global 500 is nice, but also later on a global plus 3,000 when you get to level 3 is kind of nuts, especially on attack at least anyway. So this card is really, really neat, and it gives you some options as well to run multiple colors, which helps with some of our level 1 game later as well, which we'll come to later. In terms of like your early game, that's basically what you want to see. We do run some more level 0s. We run 3 copies of Encouraging Melody Aya Maruyama. This card is as a pay 1 tap self top 5 brainstorm to draw from the start deck or the intro deck, and also at the beginning of your climax phase, you may choose one of your level 1 Yukina or level 3 Kasumi from the intro deck and give it 1,000 power and a soul. Now, obviously, we don't run the Yukon in level 1, but we do run the level 3 Kasumi, basically putting our Kasumi up to 5, 6 soul, if you run 2 of these in the back row. Yeah, it's kind of nuts when it goes off. And plus, an electric power as well is quite nice. We run 2 copies of a Daughter's Cooking Maskin. This card is a Climax swapper, so pay 1, discard a Climax, salvage a Climax. And also, when this card is placed on stage for hand, you may choose one of your opponent's level 0 or lower characters on the center stage and return it to their hand. Really good if, you know, your opponent's got a card that's waiting to go to waiting room, or it's going to cause some issues in terms of, you know, it being too big on the board and you just get rid of it back to hand. Yes, it means they've got it in hand to use next turn, but it could keep your board a little bit more alive for longer. And finally, we want 1 copy of Prize Collection Nanami Hiromachi. I will get these names right. When this card is played, you may pay 1, drop 1 to search for a anniversary or Morphonica character. And then also, its other effect is when this card is placed from stage to hand, choose one of your opponent's characters and one of the traits of that character and remove that trait from that character. Now, this can be huge. There are a lot of cards at the moment that say if all of your characters are quintuplets, if all of your characters are Avatar or Net, and if you can choose one character to lose one of those traits, that could disrupt an opponent's board and an opponent's power boost and things like that. So having that as a one-off is really neat, and the fact it's on drop search is kind of cool. Now, you don't have to run this card. This is a personal tech, but I love this card, and I think it's never been a situation where this card has done absolute stonks. So strong recommendation if you just want to have a bit of board disruption. And a drop search is a drop search. You could run the level 0 Kokoro from set Girl Band Party set 1. However, this is quite nice because it's anniversary, so it goes with the synergy of the deck. Yeah, this card is good, and I would strongly recommend it as a one-off. And that rounds up our level 0s, 17 of them to be exact. Moving on to level 1, we run 4 copies of our main combo, the Big Stage Akko Uragawa. This card is when it's card played from hand or from memory, gain 3000 power. And also Climax combo with Necromancer of the Abyss, the 2 soul blue from the main set, from the anniversary set. And this card is, so at the beginning of your opponent's encore step, if the Necromancer of the Abyss is in your Climax area, you may put this card into your memory. If you do, at the beginning of your next draw step, you bring it out back from your memory and it gains an additional 3500 power. Now, seems like an combo, but what it means is you are guaranteed to have these pieces on board next turn. Even if you reverse, and this doesn't get bigger on its first initial attack at 7000 power, which is unlikely for a level 0, 7000 is a decent number. Especially when you run your back row as well, you get into 9,000 power by level 2. You know, you get into decent power levels with this. And even if you can't get over with this, because it happens at the beginning of your encore step, these do not go to waiting room during your encore step before the effect resolves. So even if this card is reversed at the beginning of your encore step, you can still send it to memory as part of the Climax combo. So that's pretty cool. The fact that it then comes back means that you've guaranteed got 1, 2, 3 lanes ready to attack, and also they are coming back in with at least 10,500 power, which at level 1 isn't a force to be reckoned with at all. When you've got the right back row, you can get to 12.5, sometimes even 14.5 if you happen to double Masaki. That can deal with Alice's, and that is a really big deal. And even if you can't deal with Alice's, you don't care, because you accept you're smaller, you go back to memory, okay, I'll come back, thank you very much. Like, that's fine. You do not care about your opponent's board in this. Yes, it means that your opponent's board might end up staying. Yes, it means that your opponent's board, you know, and it means that your opponent hasn't got to use as many resources to keep in the game. But you don't care. You just play your game. And that's what's great about this deck. This is a deck that doesn't really depend too much on what your opponent is playing. You can just play your game and crack on. It's amazing. We also run 3 copies of For Everyone Maya Yamato. This card is when this card is placed from stage to, on the stage from your hand, you may look up to top X cards from your deck, add a level 1 or higher amongst those to hand, and then discard 1. And then also, where X is equal to the number of different colors of your characters. So if you have a Maya on play, there's 1 color, blue. Say you had the Brainstorm in the back row, red, that's the 2nd color. Say you've also got the Masaki in the other back row, yellow, that's 3 colors. If you still have a Mocker on the field, that's all 4 colors. So you could top 4 for a level 1 higher on play, and it's for a level 1 or higher card, meaning you can also access your events, which starts off with, of course, Toilet Time, That Irritating Girl, probably one of the best events in BanG Dream, a very expensive card. At the time of recording, about £25–30 a card. This card is really, really good. And for an uncommon from the original BanG Dream set, the very first BanG Dream set. And this card is, if the number of music characters you have is 2 or less, you cannot play this card. So you have to have at least 3 characters on the board to play this. You choose one of your characters in your waiting room, one of your music characters, and put it to stop. That's the first part. The second part is choose one of your characters and give it the following effect. When this card attacks, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a music character, add it to hand. So this is potentially a +2. +1 if the fact you play this card from your hand. This is potentially a hard +1, which in a deck that doesn't actually plus, you just regain your board, and rather than actually plussing resources, this card is really useful, not only for your stock generation, but also to keep you at a decent hand size where if you need to replace things, you can. This card is really cool, which is why you run the Maya, basically to cycle this card to your hand as quick as physically possible. And that's it for level 1. Moving on to level 2, we run 2 copies of Morning Call Tsukushi Futaba. This card is when this card attacks, if you have 4 or more other characters, choose one of your characters and give it +2 soul. Yes, a character that gives +2 soul to a character. Also, when one of your other characters is front attacked, you may send this card from stage to waiting room, and if you do, give what that character that being attacked an extra 3,000 power. Now, the second effect, it can come in clutch. But the also important thing about this is, yes, it's a level 2 with 1 cost, but it has got base 2 soul. So you are increasing your damage output. If you're playing with 2 soul, you give the accessibility of being able to side to control your damage a bit more. Not only that, you can give +2 soul realistically to your level 3 Kasumi, and again we'll come to that combo later, but basically we're looking at maximum to do an Icy Tail for 10. I'll explain that later. We also run 2 copies of the 2-1 Masaki, the Once a Millennium Knight Masaki Okusawa even. This is the one that goes with the level 0 Masaki, the global 500. And then basically if your level is 2 or higher, or there is a marker underneath this card, which is basically when you swap these around, the level 0 becomes a marker underneath this card. During your turn, all of your other anniversary or Hello Happy World characters get X power, where X is equal to your level times 1,000. So this becomes a global 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 depending on your level, which again, especially towards late game, you can just pump your level 3s to 13, 14, 15k quite easily just because of 1 card. This card is really, really good. Again, it helps with that yellow balance as well to help with your level 1 Maya. Yeah, and you don't need to care about running too much yellow for it either, because at the end of the day you're just playing it as a marker, you're never playing it hard from hand. So you don't care about yellow in your deck, you only really care about red and blue. Yeah, it's just a really, really neat back row engine, which is really, really good in BanG Dream right now, especially if you're running anniversary. So really, really good card. We also run 1 copy of Into a Steady Secretary Arisa Ichigaya. This card is when this card is played from stage to hand, you may pay the cost, which is discard an event from your hand. And if you do, shuffle your waiting room back into your deck. Yep, it's a free fresh on discarding an event on a deck that runs currently 4 that you can see, but also 2 more events. We also run Buns for Luck, which I'll talk about in a moment. But also when this card attacks, if it's facing a level 3 or higher, it gains 6,000 power. It gets to 11,500. It can deal with some level 3 walls. You know, 11,500 plus this, making it say 13,500. It's pretty good, and it's just nice to have that free fresh for the cost of just discarding an event. Is not too difficult. Back to Buns, we run 2 copies of Buns for Luck, which is the stock swap for BanG Dream. Basically, it is a pay 1 event to pay a blue. It's a red 2-1 event, whereas when you play it, put all your opponent's cards in their stock into their waiting room, and put the same number of cards from the top of the deck into their stock. Pretty straightforward. And that's it for level 2. We just run the 7 level 2s. I was contemplating running a 3rd Buns for Luck. That's if I had one. I only have 2, so I'm running it at 2. I would probably run this as a 3 of. I'm not sure what I'd take out though. and that's something I'd have to consider. Finally, we go into our level 3s, and starting off, we'll go with our early plays, and we run 2 copies of To the Sea of Knowledge Rui Yashio. This card is a 2 or less climax early play. We can play at level 2 to level 3. And then this card gains 500 power for each of your other Morphonica or Anniversary back row. And then also, when this card is placed from stage to hand, or by the effect of the level 3 footer bow, which you don't run in this deck, you may discard a card from your hand to the waiting room. And if you do, choose a Anniversary or Morphonica character in your clock and put it to your hand. It's a heal to hand. Pretty cool. Especially if you need to find your level 3s, or you need to pump out and to get your level 1s back again, or get the pieces that you need for your level 2 stuff. This card is really, really handy. It's a heal, that's the important thing, but it's a heal to hand, so you're not actually losing hand in doing this. It's a heal with a hand filter, which is rather cool. We also run 1 copy of Special Memories Tai Hanazono. This card is really, really good. I think it's a fantastic one-off. It's an alternate finisher as well, so this is a 6 or more climax early play, which at the speed you can get through in this deck, having a 6 or more is pretty nice. Also, when this card is placed from stage to hand, you may discard a card from your hand to heal to stock, so it's a stock healer. And then finally, if you have 2 or more other Anniversary or Poppin' Party characters, it gains 2,500, making it a 11,000 base. And the following effect: on attack, pay 3, discard 2, and if you do, deal 3 damage to your opponent. So it's an alternate finisher, it's an alternate poke for damage, as well as a stock healer as an early play with a unique requirement. It's pretty cool. And finally, we run 4 copies of Sakura Season Returns Kazumi Toyama with the 2 soul climax from the intro deck. Now, if you don't know what this card does, this card is really interesting. It's not good, it's not dumb, it's just interesting. I think it's the best way of putting it. On play, search for an Anniversary or Pump Park card. So you can have 1 in your hand, play it, search for a second, play it, search for a third, play it, search for something else that you need. Fantastic. Could be the Brainstorm, could be I don't know, it could be anything in it, or it could just be some hand fodder for later. And then its climax combo is at the end of this card's attack. If you have the red climax in play, you may mill the bottom X of your opponent's deck and burn for X, and burn for Y, should I say. So the X is equal to this character's soul, and then Y is then equal to the number of climaxes revealed for the Icy Tail. So if this card, which can get to a staggering 10 soul, this can do mill bottom 10, burn X. That's pretty good. To get to that 10, it's not easy. So it's base 2 soul, plus 2 soul from the climax. Fantastic. You'd also need to trigger a plus 2 soul. So that means 6 soul when the 2 trigger. You would also need to make sure you give the plus 2 soul from this card. That gives it 8 soul. You would also need to make sure you have at least 1 Brainstorm out to give it a plus 1 soul. The second one, plus 1 soul again, that makes it 10. If you're direct attacking, that's 11 soul. You can get this to 11 soul. I thought 10 was the max. 11 is the maximum you can do. Realistically, you're going to be expecting anywhere between 5 and 7. You're running a decent amount of soul trigger icons. Like, you're not running a massive amount, but you're running an okay amount. I mean, you're running 4, 8, 10, 11, maths is hard, 15, 17, 21 soul triggers. With obviously 8 of those being double soul trigger. Pretty nice. It synergizes with this card very well. Is it a good combo? Like I said, no. Is it really fun, and when it goes off, does it feel amazing? Yes, it does. Because I've had it before where my opponent's been in a somewhat compressed deck state. Say, I don't know, 6 in 24. I will swing, stick for 6, swing for 6, and that 6 damage sticks. You then Icy Tail the bottom 6, hit 3 climaxes, 3 damage sticks. That's 9 damage in 1 attack. That can just end the game. And that's what's crazy about this. It can just end the game. For literally no reason, because 2 soul go burr. Now, I understand that people don't like 2 soul sometimes because of the nature of its RNG. And sure, I understand that. But honestly, in the current meta, if you can rush your opponent, they have very little time to respond. And usually cannot respond. So I think that this deck, is it a good deck? Nah, debatable. Is it an interesting rogue deck that can just step in, ruin Swiss rounds, and just get you to top cut? Absolutely. It can just do that. And I wouldn't recommend playing this in trios because it's unreliable about what you'll play against. But in singles, in individual format, I'd give it a go. And I might do for BCS. I genuinely don't know. Yeah, this deck is really fun. You've probably seen me on stream playing it already and testing it out to the nuances, but this is now the actual physical deck. Here's the deck profile. I hope you enjoy, and it's been an absolute pleasure going through this deck. I love readdressing this deck and looking at it again. Are there a few things I'd change? Maybe. I'd maybe include an extra buns and remove one of the Masakis. Or I'd remove one of the morning calls footer buzz for a third buns. I'd maybe even run it as 4 buns and have 8 events, so that then you can maximise on your free fresh. I think that's a bit overkill. I think 7 events is more than enough. Yeah, I really like this deck, and I think it's really, really fun. And yeah, it's not a deck that I'd ever take seriously competitively, but it's a deck that can just do things really well out of nowhere. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please let me know by hitting that like button. And if you haven't already, please make sure you consider subscribing to the channel. But again, as always, thank you so much for watching. All my socials down below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!